Are there any particular systems and processes in certain areas of the business that have really impacted your ability to scale like you have? Or has it been just like across the board? Just curious, like what processes and systems have helped you scale the most?
Well, listen, law is really behind the times when it comes to most things. And there are businesses, most businesses, run their businesses on metrics, right? And law firms, by and large, don't. Well, I do. So, you start out with very, very simple metrics. Things that I've been tracking literally for 20 years is, where do my cases come from? You know, what are my settlements? What's my average settlement? Just start with things like that. Because the more information that you have, the more data that you have, the more you can make informed decisions. So where do you start? You start with the real simple things, and then you can start looking at, what kind of data is important to help the profitability of the firm and help the clients, and you start tracking that. And then you start seeing what you can do to improve whatever those numbers are. So to me, it all starts with numbers. Now, although we have data and we track everything, it doesn't necessarily mean that we always make a decision based on the numbers. There are cases that we handle because it's the right thing to do, not because we're going to make money, because we've got a client that's really being screwed around by an insurance company, and it's the right thing to do. And, the numbers tell us, we shouldn't take that case because we're going to lose money or whatever. But when you have the numbers, you can at least make those informed decisions, and you'd be surprised at how better run any business, and a law firm in particular, will be when you have these numbers to look at.
That makes a lot of sense. I've talked to a lot of firms that they know some of their numbers, they don't know all of their numbers, they look at different numbers. You talked about where cases come from, average settlements. Do you look at sort of every detailed number every day, or I'm just curious, what's your day-to-day like, or week over week? Are there one or two KPIs or metrics, or a top 5 that you're looking at all the time and you're sharing with your team and the whole team's looking at?
I mean, as the managing partner, I'm looking at intake every day. I want to see, the number of leads, the number of cases that are signed up, and the facts of those cases. I'm also looking at settlements each day, because I need to keep my finger on the pulse of the firm. So, for example, if we have 100 leads, I know we're going to sign up about 30 of those. Historically, we sign up about 30% of our leads. Out of those 30 cases, we are going to withdraw no fee from about 20%. These are cases that we've signed up that upon further investigation, we find out there's no liability, there's no insurance, or for whatever reason. And we refer out about 10%. So out of those 30 cases we sign up, 3 get referred out, 6 we drop. So we're going to settle 21 cases. So if we have 100 leads, we're probably going to get fees on about 21 cases. I also know how many cases each of my team members can handle. So, for example, a case manager's caseload should be a certain number of cases. So if I see leads coming in and I see signups increasing, I need to make sure that we have enough capacity for case managers. And we want to look at that going forward. We don't want to be caught shorthanded and all of a sudden have all these new cases and no case managers. Same thing is when the cases are signed up, and if there's an increase, I need to look down the road for medical records, because at some point we're going to need medical records for all these people. I need to look at attorneys to handle them. But if you have a handle on your numbers, you can project these things. Now, let's look at the other number is settlements. I need to know what my cash flow is going to be. And I need to know and look forward to what I'm going to have to spend to handle all of these cases. So if there's an increase in cases right now, it's going to cost me money to handle them before the fees come in. So I'm always kind of projecting to have an idea of where we are financially. And that's what I do as a managing partner, is really keep my finger on the pulse of the firm.
I love that. It's this delicate balance of, what's coming in the door, net new cases, which is going to cause us to increase our cost potentially, or maintain our cost to work these cases. And then what's the revenue we're getting coming in. And that is a delicate balance. I like your perspective there.
With all the metrics in the firm, what I like to think of myself as, if you've ever seen inside a recording studio where they have a mixing board and they've got all these slides, and the producer or the engineer can move this slide up and move this slide up and balance everything. That's what I look at my job, right? I'm continuously balancing out these things, and if one metric goes up, I need to adjust the other metrics to keep everything in balance. There are times that we get too many cases, and so I will have to adjust that, and maybe we'll cut down on some advertising spend, or we'll tell the intake team, be a little bit more particular about the cases that you sign up. In intake, I have this metaphor: is intake is like a fisherman, and they cast this big wide net, and you pull it all in, and you see what you get. But sometimes it depends on how wide the holes are in the net. So if you have a really tight net, you're gonna pull in a lot of stuff. So there are times, if we're slow, I tell them, tighten up the net, and maybe we get some cases that we might not have taken if we were busy, or let's let some of those little fish go through the holes and not worry about those because we're so busy. But that's what my role is as a managing partner, is to see the 10,000 foot view.